Hello, everyone. So I am on I had to open up a completely new window. Hi, Dana. You found me. I am so impressed. I'm so glad you're over here because I had to completely open up a different window. They were saying I needed streaming software, and I don't know what that means because I have to use the webcam. So I'm really glad that you were able to find me. Perfect. So I'm excited about everything I wanted to talk about today. So I'm glad that you guys were able to stick around. So wonderful. The subject that I really wanted to talk about today was 2023, kind of an energy update, what to expect about this year. So I would love to hear you all let me know in the chat what your questions are, what it is that you are wondering, because I was also getting kind of the urge to do mini readings, and so maybe just feeling into the energy, seeing what is going on, what is out there. But now that I have the wrong link out there, it might take some time for people to find us, and that's perfectly okay. So what I am going to start with is I'm actually really excited about this year. And I know that that sounds a little crazy right now, just because everything that is going on in 2023, and it is full of intensity. The reason why I'm excited about this year is because Pluto is moving, it is shifting into Aquarius, and out of Capricorn. So what is interesting about that is that it is bringing with it a lot of chaos, as Pluto does. It brings with it chaos, and we're shifting out of the old into the new. Pluto is not comfortable in Aquarius. It's not comfortable next to Uranus. And so it creates this friction that can be kind of difficult to navigate. It can be kind of difficult to deal with. And I feel if everyone can sort of hold tight through the discomfort of this kind of initial change and just the initial electricity, the initial sort of impulse, then it can really be beautiful. Because right now, I think we have the planetary positions to be able to create our wildest dreams. I think we have it. This is a really special time. And I think this is part of why the chaos is happening, because we are capable of so much good. We are capable of so many good things. And with Pluto going into Aquarius, it goes back into Capricorn in June. So remember that we kind of have this window of almost like new energy. Where are we? What is this? It's not super comfortable, but we're going back to revisit the stuff that we had going on in early March in June. And so it's kind of a little bit of a breath of fresh air, breath of newness, and it's not comfortable. But what we can do as people on the personal level is take that energy and create with it what we want, and use that energy to breathe life and electricity into our dreams. Okay, this is what we can do on the personal level. On kind of the macro, they call it mundane astrology. Astrology for the US, it means something different. But astrology for the person, energy update for you guys. Hi, Rose. Hi, Isabel. I'm so glad you found me over here. So yeah, and just put your questions in the chat, and I'm going to get to those, because I'm just kind of feeling. I think with Pluto being in Aquarius, I'm just feeling an electrical sort of energy, and so I'm ready to just kind of do some mini readings. And just know that with the mini readings, if you're hearing me say something in response to someone else, and it resonates with you, that it's for you too, because there's like a whole kind of group energy element going on with the viewers of this video. And it's something that I have been just really, really trying to kind of work on crystallizing and uplifting the energy. And so that has been my intention. for today and why I wanted to meet. So definitely. Hi, Rose. Any advice for Saturn returns? Mine has begun this year. Wonderful. Yay, Saturn returns. I'm glad you're asking about Saturn returns because it is a big deal. It is something that we all hit around age 28 to 30. 28, 29, or 30 years will hit. And really, my advice for Saturn returns is to remember that Saturn can feel like our greatest challenge. It asks the most of us, really. The planet Saturn asks the most of us. Wherever Saturn is in your chart is where your life challenge lies. We have challenge in our life in order to help us grow. It makes us stronger. So in a way, Saturn is your guardian angel. That's another way of looking at it. It might be tough love, right? It might be challenging, but it is meant to protect you. It's meant to keep you on path. It is meant to kind of be that structure. Sometimes Saturn can feel like too rigid, but really the rigidity is necessary on a foundation, right? To stay strong for us. And so for a Saturn returns, just know that it is just going to kind of go through everything. Like what needs to go, what needs to stay. Think of like a big declutter. What needs to go in your life? What do you need to declutter? What have you always wanted to do? This is really kind of getting into the center of your life and really helping you almost reevaluate. This is an intense year to be having a Saturn return, I will say, because really your Saturn returns is happening the same year that the US's Pluto returns is happening. So you might actually feel like more of the collective energy, and your Saturn returns might reflect that. So you just keep in mind that if you're like, wow, this is really affecting me more than other people, it's just because Saturn is hitting at the same time that Pluto. It's like you in America are going through similar things, really. It's about kind of rearranging and restructuring your life, doing what you've always wanted to do. That's what I think this whole year is about. Oh, and hi, Schuler or Skylar, transiting Saturn entering my second house. Yeah, so it's all about, values for you and rethinking how you're making your money. Is this how you want to make it? Is there another way that you'd prefer to make money? So Saturn return just goes through your life. I heard it put I don't remember who I heard say this, but they said that it goes through your life with a fine-toothed comb and really just gets rid of everything that you don't need. And it's kind of meant to clear space. But know that sometimes it means standing up for yourself in a difficult way. Standing up for yourself creates boundaries, but it is an act of power that will change your life. Okay, so creating boundaries in a way that perhaps you're not used to, standing up to your parents could be, that was mine. That's what mine was. But all of these things are really creating boundaries that tell you what you will and will not put up with. And that is what Saturn returns is all about. And it is not always easy, depending on, your situation. But I feel like Rose, like you got it. You're on top of it. You know what's happening. And really with astrology, it's not about pigeonholing ourselves with astrology. It's about having enough awareness so that we can prepare. And when we have the awareness and are prepared, we can really plan ahead and make things easy. It's when we kind of get hit out of nowhere and we don't know what's happening and we're not doing any spiritual work that things can feel more difficult. If we know what spiritual work means, that's really all Saturn returns is. It's asking you to do spiritual work. Yeah. Perfect. Oh, and yes, of course, your Saturn is in Pisces. And perfect toward having a practice. Well, that's beautiful. So Saturn in Pisces is really about dreaming. And right now we have Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune and Saturn, both in Pisces, Uranus and Venus, both in Taurus. We have Jupiter and Mercury, both in Aries. And then Mars is randomly in Cancer now. It just left Gemini. This is a configuration of creation and dreaming. Okay, so while it feels like our country might be having a big reckoning, right? The banks are having a big reckoning. Pluto is the banks, it's institutions. So institutions are having a reckoning and power struggles, but really us, the people, energy, as energetic beings, we're getting hit by really high frequency and we're being pushed to the next level in a beautiful way. And for some, it can be a detox, and that's wonderful. Kind of right now, under this configuration and just with what's happening in the world, and after a time of a period of quarantine where everyone has been kind of putting their immune systems, in like a box, and now everyone's out and it's normal immune kind of responses again. It's good to get sick. We want to get sick and let those detoxes happen. We don't want to suppress. Suppressing things it's kind of what everyone, out of fear, people tend to fear sickness and go into suppression. And right now getting sick is good. We want to let it out, right? If it's on the level of the skin, it's on its way out. All of those beautiful kind of vitalist philosophies about just letting your immune system kind of get back online after a period of quarantine. So with that, it's also with detoxing, and it's an update of energy. Right now we're getting a big energy update. And so whatever your wildest dream is possible this year. I'm not kidding. I just want you guys to get radical. I want you to think about what that biggest dream would be, and if you're not used to dreaming, go back. This is a good time to practice, but go back to when you were a child. And what was your dream then? How did you daydream then? If you daydreamed, I was a huge daydreamer. So to me, it seems really, really easy, but you might look into doing guided meditations, or do a regression where it's about dreaming your big dream. What do you want your life to look like in its most radical, beautiful form? And I think the way anything is possible right now, almost, it's like all possibilities. We're able to create it this year in a way that is uncanny. So I would really get in touch with your big dream. And that's something that's just been like pouring out of me. I wanted to tell everyone, and I wanted to tell everyone on a live like this. So hello, Tamara. I'm so glad you guys are here. Perfect. And hello, Angel Face Grace. Beautiful. I'm happy you're randomly here to my live also. Wonderful. So I just want you guys, I just want to remind you to put your questions in the chat and I'll get through them. Hi, Mimi. I'm so glad to see you guys. So I'll get to your questions as it's coming through, and then kind of in between, I have some stuff written down that I want to get to and talk about. But then I also love to get into your questions, because then it kind of turns into mini readings. And perfect. Thank you, Tamara. Hi, Atlas Divination. I'm so glad you're here. If you guys don't know Atlas Divination, go and check him out. I connect with him on Instagram. I don't know if you guys are on Instagram, but I'm my loudest on Instagram. I'm far louder on Instagram than I am on YouTube or Facebook. But that I found Atlas and got a beautiful reading from Atlas Divination. So I highly recommend him and his work. It's beautiful. So this conversation about astrology is really about, it's really about updating our energy. And what I think about, you're welcome. What I think about when I think about Aquarius is really the new age, like a new shift, a new way of living. And I think about meditation. That's where my mind goes. It's like we finally have the energy to meditate. What Aries and Taurus, all these planets in Aries and Taurus, it's like it finally gives us the material to create with our meditations. Taurus finally gives us like the groundedness to sit down, and Aries brings the inspiration. So when I say meditation, And I want to kind of do some meditation instruction with you guys, and I'm not really sure why. It's just really what I kind of just feeling led to do. But what happens when you sit down and meditate in a way that you feel your body? That, and you're sitting down and doing nothing for however long, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, doing nothing radically reshapes your inspiration and your ability to create and have the energy to create what you want. It allows you to finally, instead of like running around, it allows you to finally stop and allow your higher self to find you, or spirit to find you. And that's where you meet. And you're able to almost stop and receive the transmissions. What is my purpose? What is next? What do I do right now? Like, why am I here? How can I further my practice? All of these questions will come to you when you leave enough time with space and stillness, and you get still enough so that your higher self can trickle down into you. Because in my experience, it's happening all the time. Like, my higher self wants to kind of trickle down and merge really at all times. It's really up to me to be able to hold a presence where I can hold it. And I feel like holding that space really is about stamina, and almost like building an energetic stamina of heightened energy. And that's what meditation is. I think for me, it helps me hold higher energy for longer amounts of time. And so with that, I really feel like the kind of meditation also really matters. What I was doing when I first started was I would just sit and kind of meditate on my thoughts. And I ended up really sort of ungrounding myself. I really just sort of kind of blew open my mental kind of body and was just letting it run around. And I wasn't necessarily coming out any better. I was kind of coming out a little bit more chaotic and ungrounded. Like, I remember meditating before meeting a friend, and my friend was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, why? I was just meditating." Like, I must have seemed like really out of it. And so now, thinking back, I realized that I must have really ungrounded myself by just kind of meditating on my thoughts. And so what meditation is good for, it's for giving you an anchor and giving you something to focus on. Yes, so essential among the overstimulation of today. That's a beautiful way of putting it, Atlas. So with Pluto in Aquarius and with all this electricity, it's such an overstimulation. And with all the chaos in the world, all the stuff going on, right? I mean, here in my hometown, we just had the shooting down in Green Hills at this church that I used to pass every day. And I know several people that I know someone whose daughter is friends with the sister of the shooter. I mean, this is really close to home for me. And then someone else knows one of the victims. And so I think a part of me wants always, whenever tragedies like this happen, a part of me always kind of wishes that it isn't true, or like, this can't be happening, like, please let this not be real. And it's so close to home for me, the tragedy is just, I've had to really kind of add that into what I'm feeling. And so meditation is really the only way that I have found the ability to integrate the chaos going on around me and the extreme sadness. I know, right? Bless their souls, truly, Rose. But to integrate all feeling what's going on outside of me, as well as feeling my little inner child and feel what's going on inside of me. And really, what first came up, I mean, even really before that tragedy, what I have been working on has been anger, and has been my go-to thing. I really don't go to sadness. My first thing is anger. Anger covers my sadness. I'm like, I want to like rant and rave and get angry. That's just always been my go-to because it's easier for me to feel than sadness. Not everyone is like this, but I am. So, gosh, I was like, what do I do? How do I deal with this anger? Because everything that was going on in the world was only making me angrier. I wasn't able to kind of handle it. Like I was just always sort of angry and always like riding like this wave of anger. Dana, you've had the anger too? Yeah, it's just really right there in my face lately. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this. I'm going to really meditate on it, really. And you've been working on anger too. Interesting, Grace. So I feel like maybe this is just something that is coming up, especially with Jupiter and Mercury in Aries. Mercury being the mind, Aries really being ruling the head, and inflammation, but also, Aries as a fire sign. And then Jupiter just kind of like expanding. This expansion can be anger. I feel like if that is something that is suppressed. And so again, kind of what I was saying at the beginning about how like it's okay to get sick. Like it's okay to be sick because you want to let it out. You want to detox it. We don't want to suppress it. Really, the same is emotion, the same with our emotions. We don't want to suppress. I had suppressed so much anger throughout my life. I found that for some reason, I think it must be like new solar energy coming into the planet, that it's just coming. It's like almost being pushed out. Like it's almost an anger detox. And Dana, I thought it was my transits, Pluto opposing Mars. Yeah, I mean, and that will do it too, right? You have Pluto opposing Mars, and it's like a power, and Pluto is really strong, kind of like pushing out the Mars energy. And Grace, I would say the last 3 months for me have been that theme of anger realigning. Interesting. So the last 3 months, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. When it comes to anger, Skylar, yesterday I found something so ridiculous that I laughed, but surprisingly, the next reaction I had was anger. That's funny. I mean, that can be, it's almost, that almost seems like Pluto in Aquarius right there. Like, first anger, then like laughing anger. It's like, what is going on? Because Aquarius being ruled by Uranus, it's an electricity, just kind of being like, how do I feel? What is going on? It's an electrical impulse. Interesting. Hello, Destiny Luna. I'm glad you're here. And interesting, it's like we're kind of picking up on the collective pushing it out. Totally. It's like a collective detox right now. It's we're all pushing out and sort of detoxing what has been suppressed. And so for me, the only thing that I have really found to work, and I feel like I've tried everything. I feel like I've been on the healing path now for so long that really, here's what worked for me. It has been sitting down and having a consistent meditation practice where I feel my sensations. I'm feeling my body. I'm actually like feeling burning sensations in my body. It's usually like my back. There's a scapula, the back scapula. And just sitting with that burning sensation and just feeling it and kind of sitting in the discomfort. It's a little bit like giving a little bit like childbirth. If any of you have done natural childbirth, it's like you just have, there's no way out. The way out is through. You feel it, and then it just it starts progressively getting stronger, and then it's over. But that sitting with it long enough to allow kind of the rebirth to occur is what I have been working on. Because what I like to do is I like to move. I'm sitting there and I like feel it hurt and I'm like moving. So just staying still. I've been committing to meditate every day and staying still for however long I have. I stay still. And so when the sensations come up, I just sit with it, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. And I allow it to kind of get worse. And I don't let the fear or the mental attachments to how much worse it could get let me move. It's almost like my resolve. It's like my act of revolution. It's my own personal act of revolution is no. It's the way that I fight, right? I fight my urges to move and I feel it. I feel what's in there. And what started coming up is my inner child, really old stuff. So as I'm sitting there and I'm like, nope, you're not moving. And it's getting kind of worse and I can feel, the burning sensations or really whatever sensations. It's not just burning. It's just that has been indicative of my anger. But I'm sitting there with it. And then suddenly my thoughts are going to childhood memories, to old things that I thought I was already over, like old things I thought I'd already cried about. Like, why am I crying about it again? That kind of a thing. And really it was what, and I did just make a post about this, but what Thich Nhat Hanh said in his book, Anger, that really with your inner child, you have to make a practice of holding your inner child every day and listening. He said, listening is an antidote to anger. And I was like, what does that mean? I don't know. Listening to what? Listening how? Like I don't know what that means. And so I tried it. Okay. I'm sitting there in my meditation and these memories are coming up and these feelings are really uncomfortable. And I'm remembering being a little girl lying under my dad's has a grand piano, lying under my dad's grand piano where I like to hang out. I don't know. Not while he was, well, sometimes while he was playing it, but I would lie under there. And I was lying under there feeling really sad. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was sadness because I wouldn't really let myself feel as a child much. And I didn't know that about myself until I went back into these memories. So I'm lying down there next to myself, just kind of holding myself. And I'm talking as my little me is telling me stuff. And now, that I do have kids and, I do understand the way children communicate is really special. And so I'm just sitting with myself, listening to myself, basically mothering myself, basically being there for me when no one else really was. And just being okay with that and allowing myself to feel heard at such a young age because no one else was. And in these memories, I started remembering something I had forgotten. And that was when I was little, I would remember a woman who I thought was, I in my mind, like, oh, she's my guardian angel. I would remember a woman coming to me and she looked a little bit like how I look now to me when I was little. I don't necessarily look in the mirror and be like, yeah, that's what I saw. But I'm realizing that it's almost like little me was there too. Little me was aware of this, almost like time travel. And I started realizing, oh, this is a thing. And the anger that I could not touch started dissolving. The feeling of not being heard, the pain and the sadness of not being heard started dissolving. The feeling of not having a mother started dissolving. And I will say that it was kind of crazy while I was doing this. Like in these days of meditation every day, I was pretty agitated. The agitation was there. I had to just be with it, be like, I'm agitated and I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep this practice. So that is my story about that. And now I'm going to go through thank you guys. So Atlas, Mars is transiting my natural third house. So much of my anger is being put into words and thoughts I can finally understand. So much sitting with it. That is interesting. That's a really good way of putting it. So Mars definitely, like you're saying, Mars can rule anger for sure. And then third house, communication. So you're able to actually have it at the level of thought, the level of communication, rather than just sitting in your body, which is really cool. So you're able to just understand it. Really interesting. And Tamara, I learned transcendental meditation last August, and it actually helped me figure out a meditation practice. Beautiful. TM. Yeah. So TM is mantra meditation, where you take a mantra. I don't know if they give it to you or if you pick one. I'm not really sure. I actually haven't done much transcendental meditation. I think maybe once, but it's mantra meditation. It's really beautiful with helping you like stay still and focus the mind. It helps kind of focus the thoughts and still the mind and bring it back down. I love it. And Destiny Luna, I think inner child work absolutely is time travel. I agree. I feel like I experienced it. So it's one of those things where the more I did it, almost the more memory I was able to get back, right? Because I was almost like getting back into myself in that time. So I think if you are looking for childhood memories, this is also a really beautiful way to do it, because not only are you working on yourself and increasing your capacity to hold emotion and to handle it, but you're also getting back into that sense awareness, into those sensory memories and that time, and you're able to kind of pull up, oh, because I have a lot of, I have a lot of times where I don't remember as a child, and I was so dissociative as a child that it's really interesting to like get back into my body and understand myself in that way. Like, whoa, like I never really realized how miserable I was until I kind of went back and got back into my body. And it was very, I don't say that to like be down on myself or really, be negative, but I say that to kind of validate my struggles now, to validate, okay, it has really been hard. So hello, Moon Queen. Phoebe here. Great perspective advice. Thank you, Phoebe. It's good to see you. I don't know. Did you change your name? I'm not sure, but I thought that that's a new name for you. It's very cool. I love it. And Tamara, the TM teacher gave me the mantra. I had a terrible time trying to relax too many random thoughts. TM helped with that. I love that. That's really, really beautiful. I think mantra meditation is really powerful for that. I like to use, if I am like all kind of stressed out or I've been kind of pushing too much, I'll notice, okay, I'm getting kind of too masculine. I'm getting too much into my masculine and too much kind of into hustle culture, right? And I'm like sticking into the sympathetic nervous system, and I need to kind of get out of my Gemini ways, right? And back into my body. I like to use mantra meditations from Lakshmi and Saraswati. That those are the goddesses of really of abundance and beauty and femininity. And then Saraswati is the goddess of music and creativity and, the intellect and learning. And so I like to kind of get into those feminine archetypes with mantra in that way, just to kind of infuse myself with that energy, because it is so old. These Eastern practices, these Hindu goddesses are so ancient, and so many people, India has been really holding like the torch, keeping the torch lit for these feminine archetypes for so long, that it is a very, very powerful feeling. And I think mantra meditation really does that for us. Skylar, I go from admiring someone to being obsessed with him, but they live on the other half of the world. Am I too old to daydream like a teenage girl? Any tips for dealing with obsession? Yeah, so I wonder if do you have some Gemini in your chart? Okay, Aquarius rising with Sun in Pisces. Yeah, so Sun in Pisces is the daydreamer. Pisces is the dreamer. So what I would do, Skylar, and Aquarius rising with Pisces, I mean, you're brilliant. You're really brilliant. You have this ability to really, you're a creative soul, and you have all of this energy. And what you're calling obsession is actually, it's actually like creative energy that doesn't have a place to go. And so kind of what you're doing is you're kind of putting it on another person, when really this is your energy that you could harness. So it's almost like, okay, what are your dreams? What is your creative outlet? The sun in Pisces, you're an artist. So whatever that artistic outlet is, and you're Aquarius rising, so you're going to be a little outside the box, and that's exactly how you should be, right? You're going to dream. I want you to dream something for yourself. I want you to kind of focus whenever you'll notice, like, okay, my thoughts are like kind of getting obsessive. See if you can kind of pull that into like a focus on yourself, like focus for yourself. What is it that you want for yourself, rather than another person, you know, rather than another person, be like, what is it that I want in my life? Maybe it's this, artistic goal or this dream that I've always wanted to attain, but really kind of use that maybe obsessive energy, or like what you're calling, obsessions. Use that mental energy to hone in on yourself and hone in on your own dreams, right? And really that'll give you, I think, inspiration for, and maybe you are feeling, this focusing on someone else, it's just this love kind of like pouring out of you. Right. And so maybe give that an outlet in a creative way, like write a song about them, or, write a song about how you feel. It'll give that electricity going on in your mind, which, Pluto's really, really hitting that right now. And I don't know what degree Aquarius rising, but you have Pluto, which is power, kind of getting into who you are. And so it's about taking your power back. It's probably around close to your rising, or maybe in your 12th house, about karma, right? And it's about remembering your power, remembering that it's you, remembering that, fall in love with yourself, right? So this is really, really a beautiful practice, I think, for anyone that is wanting. And this is actually something that I'm not sure if I'm right about that, but this is something that I used to do when I was really afraid of something. I use this instead of kind of obsessions. When I was really afraid for a while, I was really afraid of cops. Like anytime I would see them around driving, I'd be like, ah! Like I was just irrationally terrified. I started thinking of something that I wanted instead. Like I would kind of focus all that fear and all the energy I was generating by being so afraid. I started focusing on this apartment that I wanted at the time. And so I would just kind of picture it. I would almost like force my thoughts to go into something that I wanted. And I was still kind of tingling with fear, right? As I'm driving, like cop behind me, like, but I'm like, no. And I would picture this, I almost like just make myself picture this apartment that I wanted, the inside of it, okay, this is where I want to live. And I was almost like I poured so much fear energy into this apartment. I immediately manifested it. And so just know that it's really just energy, whether it's fear or obsession, it's really just energy, and we can direct that energy. Sometimes it's harder than others, but it's still just energy. And so this is why this year, 2023, I want you to get really clear on your big dream. And it's time to update it. It's time to update what that dream for yourself is. So it might be that you had a big dream for yourself and now it's different. So it's about kind of checking back in, being like, this is my dream for my life, and now it's different. And so we're just rerouting the energy, because now we have the energy for more dreaming now, right? With Neptune and Saturn, both in Pisces. It's like, what is in there? What is in that subconscious? I would also say that we are more capable of hypnosis and self-hypnosis than at any other time. I think hypnosis is wildly effective right now, just because we have all this Pisces, we have Aquarius, it's everything is like almost like bzz, like electrical in the air. When I talk about, getting into your big dream, it's really about getting into how you want to, where you want your focus to be. But I think it also is good to remember that that can essentially be like self-hypnosis, where you're just kind of focusing your attention, getting yourself relaxed out of fear, and focusing your attention on what you want. That's essentially what self-hypnosis is. And so just notice this in the world. Like, notice if the world around you is seeming a little bit more suggestible than usual, because this can also, this just can go either way. We want to kind of harness this energy and use this kind of electricity for our benefit, and just know that the suggestibility will be heightened right now. And so what happened to me the other day is I was finding myself feeling sick. And I had kind of just been thinking, well, maybe I'm allergic to, I was eating duck eggs. It's all my farmer had. He didn't have chicken eggs. And I realized, oh, I am making myself sick because I was thinking, what if I'm allergic? I heard a story. Someone told me a story of being allergic to duck eggs. And suddenly I was about to throw up. Like, I had actually worked myself up into feeling actually sick. And so I realized, wait, I'm doing this. I am not allergic. I've eaten them before too. Like, I realized how my body was just following my thought. And as soon as I took my awareness to it, was like, no, like, where are your thoughts, Olivia? That's when I immediately felt better. It was like nothing happened. And so I'm telling you the story because I do think that our thoughts are really powerful at this time. And I do think that suggestibility is being used. I mean, I don't think anyone that is on my channel watches the news. I just don't think you guys would be here if you did. But, if just know that things like the news, it's just heightened suggestibility. You maybe be careful about what you're consuming, in media. And just because the suggestibility is there right now, and it's about directing what we do want. So thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Skylar. Yes, Tamara, falling in love with Hindu mantras after learning TM and Ayurveda. Moon Queen, do you ever think it is a good idea to manifest love or let things happen naturally? I.e., where is the line between want and escapism? Sometimes I'm worried I don't focus on love enough, or I do too much. Yeah. Definitely. So, and hi, Alex. Synchronicity in the previous topic. Awesome. Thank you for being here, Alex, for sure. So, Moon Queen, I always think it is a good idea to manifest love. Just so you know, I think manifesting love is beautiful. But I also think letting things naturally is how we should manifest love. So what I mean by manifesting love is really holding love, like holding that feeling, holding that intention, and then letting it go, but feeling it. So it's almost like, the best way to describe it, it's a little cliche, I will admit, okay? But the best way, what I'm seeing for you is almost like almost romancing yourself, like getting into what you love, doing the things you love, feeling the feelings that you love, really feeling love, like feeling romance. I follow this one woman on Instagram. I'm like, man, she's really got this down. Like, she's really just in her, like, feels. I mean, I'm sure you guys know there's so many feeds, I think, like this, where it's just really kind of in that flow, like almost in like a water state. And the feminine energy is magnetic, right? It is a receptive energy. And so I think the more kind of massaging into the feminine feelings and the water and the going with the flow, the more magnetic it will be. Now, where is the line between want and escapism? Now, want can sometimes, when it comes to manifestation, want can sometimes mean scarcity and I don't have it, right? That's what want can actually be. So I think it's good. It's good to know what we want. It's okay to want things, right? And it's not escapism to want love at all. But it's we don't want to be desperate for it, right? Like we don't want to really want it, and that's not what I'm seeing you doing. So don't get me wrong, but kind of just as a general message, like really wanting something is telling the universe that we don't have it and it's really a scarcity kind of thing. So really what I would do is to know, Moon Queen, that you have it already. Like it is already coming, and it definitely is it's definitely on its way. You're creating the space to be your highest self, so you will be ready to manifest and attract someone who is in resonance with a highest version of you. That's what it is. Whenever we want a relationship, whenever we want love, it's really about creating ourself in the life of living in our highest vibration, because we just attract what we are. We attract based on resonance. So it's about holding kind of like this feminine flow will speed up the magnetism, but getting into just that knowing that it's coming and that you're in love with yourself and in love with life. That is one of the most attractive things in the universe. So yes, I love that question. And sometimes I'm worried I don't focus on love enough, or I do too much. Yeah. So I would, when it comes to manifestation in general, we don't think it. We don't think our way there. It's about kind of getting into the feeling. When I'm overthinking something, it never comes to me. I can never almost like think my way into the solution. I can sometimes in certain areas I can, like when I was in school, I could really when you're with academia, you kind of have to think things through. But when it comes to love and manifestation, it's actually the opposite. I had to just kind of let it go and just be like, I'm here for the ride. All I do is show up. And I kind of got into like a feminine receptive state and just started following. I met my husband at a past life regression course. It was 4 days long. I was just doing things that I loved that were kind of self-development. I was immersing myself into things that I loved, and I met someone else that was my match. Right. And so that is where anytime anyone asks me, how do I manifest love? I'm like, go do classes and courses on things that you love because you're going to have like-minded people doing the same thing, wanting to better themselves. And Moon Queen, I mean, you're just so brilliant. We have to, I want you, it's going to be something that feeds the mind. And I want you to do something that it's like almost like I don't care either way. I'm not here, to meet someone, but you're feeding your mind either way, and finding a relationship is just going to be a side, kind of like a side effect of that. So absolutely. Yes. Interesting, Dana. Yeah, I was making myself more sick with my thoughts. I have been too. And I think with this configuration of planets, it's an extra potent time to be able to do that. So, yeah. Alex Del Castillo, I don't seem to remember any dreams or even having them. Could that be related to what happened in the gifted program? You know, when it comes to remembering dreams, there's can be a lot of reasons why I don't remember my dreams. And so kind of for me, sometimes I'll go without remembering my dreams when I'm in a stress state. If I'm overthinking, if I'm like if I'm stressed out and I have like a lot of people, you know, needing things from me, I mean, and I'm a mom, so it kind of like always happening. Sometimes I'll wake up and not remember any of my dreams, and it happens, you know. And I think that if we kind of get into a static, if someone were to get into a static state of if I got into a static state of not ever remembering my dreams, that is when I would get I would go and get my brain waves actually scanned by someone who does, what is it called, neurofeedback. And I feel like that might be something you would like either way, Alex, just because it would kind of show probably your beta waves are really high. The thinking mind is like always firing. And that is a trauma response. Like if we're stuck in sympathetic nervous system, it is a trauma response to kind of keep, yeah, you haven't remembered a dream for years. So it's like it's probably a trauma response. It's probably something that we want to kind of get more alpha waves up there to balance it out. And alpha and theta kind of work together. We want and theta and delta is really where the dreams happen. But we kind of want to, if the beta thinking mind has been activated as trauma does, trauma forces that to be activated too much. I want to kind of be able to allow the alpha waves to come back. Now, I will say, for me, back in a period of my life when I was drinking a lot of alcohol, drinking alcohol simulates alpha waves. And so that's why people drink. People feel relaxed on alcohol because it spikes the alpha waves. And so when I stopped drinking alcohol, it kind of was like, oh, like where the brain waves were like, wait, I had to kind of rebuild it from the ground up. It just took kind of patience and working on relaxation. I took a lot of herbs, honestly. I took a lot of like passion flower and ashwagandha, lots of adaptogens, lots of things that, yeah. So good for you. Beautiful. Not since June. Amazing. So just taking, maybe go and see also like an herbalist or naturopath, someone that can kind of get the adaptogens that are right for you to help the nervous system come back down. And there are a lot of really beautiful dreaming herbs. But if we're stuck in a trauma response where your brain's not going to let you dream if it doesn't want you to have these traumatic memories, like right here, right? And so it's about healing trauma and kind of and yeah, but no miss. But it's about kind of slowly, with help, healing the trauma and getting into a place where our bodies and minds can relax. Yeah. Hi, Cici Valcheva. I'm focusing on welcoming a new baby into the womb, staying focused on how I will feel when I found out that I am pregnant. Yay! Congrats. Well, congrats in advance. That's exciting. That's beautiful. Hello, Blue Alchemist. Hope you're having a good day. Absolutely. Hello, AUSPPC. Peppermint may be helpful for dreaming. Yeah, so all of you in the chat, yeah, much love back to you, definitely. So all of you in the chat, if you guys know of some herbs that are good for dreaming, put those in the chat because it's kind of fun to see what works for some people, because some herbs work for some people differently than others, especially when it comes to dreaming. I really like Blue Lotus for dreaming. That's just me. I never really got much. Valerian never really did anything for me. I'm not sure why. Hello, Sam3. Hello all. I dreamt last night about a huntsman spider. In Australia, they are a big spider. Oh, well, hello from Australia. And a huntsman spider. Interesting. Yeah, I think it would depend on how you feel about spiders. Definitely, if you're really scared of spiders, it can be that. Whenever there's like a creepy crawly in the dream, like a snake, whenever there's a snake or a spider in a dream or in a vision, it always depends on the person. Like you always have to understand if the person has a fear of the animal, it can represent fear. But if a person is like, no, I don't care about spiders, like those don't scare me. I mean, in your case, if it's a big spider, it sounds a little creepy, like, ooh, no thanks. But if it's someone that's like, no, I'm not afraid of snakes, then for example, the spider can mean so many different things depending on the culture. There's the grandmother spider, that the spider weaves a web in a beautiful way. There's also spiders, however, like the brown recluse where I live, that is chaos, and their webs are a mess and it's a disaster, and they don't mean order and work, and they're not creating beautiful webs. So with these creatures, it kind of just depends. It depends on the energy. Just like with snakes, people can be really afraid of snakes, but snakes can also mean power. So it depends on it depends on different things, on what's going on. Yeah, valerian essential oil. That's a good idea. Hi, Blue Alchemist. What do you think is going on spiritually with the children that are identifying as cats or other animals? Oh, yes, this question. So definitely, the children that are identifying as cats or animals, I will say that kind of when I have tried to like read into this and be like, what is going on? Because you kind of have to touch this topic with like a 10-foot pole, you have to be so careful or you will get canceled, really. And so I was like, oh, this is something, I was almost even afraid to like think about it or like meditate on it. But when I was feeling into it, I was really just getting that, with Pluto in Aquarius, we're getting all of this new energy. So it's almost like the galaxy of Andromeda. It's almost like Andromeda, where it's about change and movement, and I tried to say movement and motion. It came out as motion. Movement and motion it's all about, and people are like, whoa, who am I? Like, I don't know. And then when you have children identifying as cats, or as other animals, one, they're children, right? And so a child, now that I have children, I understand they will do almost anything, especially my Aquarius, right? Pluto in Aquarius, the Aquarian age, right? And you have an Aquarius child, they'll do almost anything for attention, almost anything to rebel. And so it could be an act of rebellion that, they're doing it because they get attention and everyone's like, whoa, everyone's talking about it. And it could be an act of rebellion. It just could be. And then when it comes to just right now, everyone is in such a state, everyone's feeling new energy, everyone's getting upgraded really quickly. And it's almost like the feeling of Aquarius and Uranus is really like antsy. You almost want to kind of crawl out of your skin. Whenever you have a bad Uranus aspect, or really, I say bad Uranus aspect, it's really not a good way of saying it. But if you have a more challenging Uranus aspect, like a square and opposition, it can create more like antsiness, where you're just like, oh, what do I do? And so when children are identifying as animals, it's kind of getting into just really going into it could be a recent past life cat. It could be a recent past life animal that has come in as a person. They identify with this. And I personally loved cats as a kid, and I loved animals as a kid because I just really identified with them emotionally more than I identified with the adults in my life. So sometimes it could be that these children aren't getting what they need met, and I don't know any of them, so I'm not speaking, like I really don't know about, this topic, but when it comes to when I am feeling into understanding, trying to discover your identity in a world that's really hitting you with new energy and like, who am I energy really, and dealing with change, identifying with the energy of animals can be easier to identify with than humans at times, especially if the humans aren't emotional, if they're not in their emotional bodies with you. And so it can be easier to kind of identify with pets. I mean, thank God as a kid I had pets, because they were easier for me to understand than people. So I think a lot of that is happening. I think a lot of it can be a trauma response and just an idea of who am I, because I can't connect with these humans in my life. And sometimes, that might not be true, but we can't always, neglect the fact that with something that is happening and people are identifying as animals, you have to understand that they really feel more of a connection with an animal than they do humans. And it can be a problem. And it can be something where it's just they feel more of an emotional and telepathic connection with animals. And so, yeah, exactly. Auspicious PPC, if an animal is the most positive influence in your life, because a lot of the people that are supposed to be taking up that role are dropping the ball. I mean, yeah. So let's see. Wonderful. Angel Face Grace. I love flower essences. I love rose for dreaming and angelica root. Beautiful. Rose for dreaming. And flower essences for dreaming and angelica root. I love angelica root. I haven't used it in a long time, but I love it. And mugwort, great for dream work as well. If you smudge it before bed, it can help you lucid dream. Beautiful. Yeah, mugwort. Absolutely. And rose, do you ever feel a spinning sensation during deep meditation? I sometimes can get a bit disoriented when this happens, and I'm not sure what it is exactly. Rose, yes. So I have absolutely gotten a spinning sensation, and that usually means you're going really deeply into meditation. And so some people really can reach deep levels of meditation really easily. I mean, so it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier about the brain waves, about the alpha, beta, delta, and that spinning sensation often happens when you're like hitting delta really quickly. Because usually we stay up, our thinking mind, the mind I'm in right now, is mostly beta. I have some alpha theta coming in just because I'm kind of like reading into people. So that's alpha theta, but usually it's beta. Delta is deep sleep. So with meditation, ultimately what you're doing is you're kind of training your brain waves to go into these more relaxing alpha theta. Monks will meditate in such a deep way that they're accessing delta, which is essentially, it shows up as if they're sleeping. That's why you'll notice if you've been meditating a lot during the day, you don't need a lot of sleep at night. I know when I am meditating like 2 hours a day and it's like really intense, usually the moon is in Aries when I have the energy to do that, to be honest with you. But I don't sleep. I'll just sleep like 6 hours that night and naturally wake up as if I'm fully rested, from a 9-hour sleep. And so that is meditation. You're hitting those states, and the spinning can just kind of be like, I am kind of getting used to this depth of energy, and a bit disorienting. It definitely can be disorienting because you're reaching these deep states, and your body and your senses are kind of trying to orient. If you keep going, if you keep meditating, that and sitting up helps. Lying down, I think, can make the spinning worse. If you sit up, that usually makes the spinning go away, but it helps with the disorientation too. So, hi, Elfern. I would always feel that spinning right before I bounce out and astral travel. That's interesting. Yeah, it could absolutely be, you're hitting such a deep level that you're about to like astrally project for sure. Yeah. Cornflower and Moon Queen. Cornflower works for me sometimes. Yeah, cornflower. Beautiful. And then hi Dia Galore. I feel that while I'm asleep sometimes. Interesting. Yeah, it might be that you're becoming conscious of the points where you are either leaving your body or coming back in from astral travel or astral awareness. Moon Queen. Where do you recommend learning more about brainwaves? I get nervous about technology measuring the waves. I kept getting info to learn more about delta waves. Yeah. Yeah. And Galore, you can type your question in the chat if you have one. But Moon Queen, so I would find a person that you trust to do neurofeedback, right? I mean, it's technology is about how it's being used, right? We can use like I'm using technology right now to communicate with all of you. And so that is really, I would just find a person that you trust to do it. So, and I actually, yeah, it was a little triggering for me because it was things put on the head. And that was something that I experienced as a kid. So it did bring back a little bit of like memories, and it was a little weird, but I had such a lovely neurofeedback therapist. I mean, if you're in Nashville, I can absolutely, send you to my person, but it's not the technology measuring the waves as much as it would be whoever is using that technology. Really, as with anything technological, it's kind of like who's using it. And yeah, and then but really meditation is so what neurofeedback does is it kind of simulates what happens to the brain waves with meditation. It happens naturally with meditation, but what neurofeedback does is it kind of gets in there and speeds it up and makes it happen quicker, or you don't have to sit for an hour before your brainwaves are balanced. It kind of balances it for you. Right. And so there is some arguments against doing neurofeedback. They think, it's a hack. And it is. It is a hack. But I would just argue that in modern world where we're constantly being hacked already by technology and just being bombarded by stress in general, I would also say that is unnatural. And we're getting unnaturally imbalanced. And so I just think it's a fair hack to maybe use technology to help us get back into balance, because what neurofeedback does, if it's done well, if it's by the person I use does muscle testing to like, okay, where does she need it? And I really trust her and love her. And so I think that's part of it. And I just leave feeling so good. Back when I used to do it, I haven't done it in a while. I haven't done it in years now, but that was something that it actually would trigger memories too, depending on, what she would do in a good way. It would trigger memories in a healing way, because then I could kind of take it to my therapist, like, okay, this is like coming up, that kind of a thing. So, yeah. Learning more about delta waves is really, you can get there through meditation. So for all of you that are here, just know that I am doing a free 10-day, basically Vipassana meditation Zoom group. If you guys are interested, I think it's going to be 8 a.m. starting on Friday. So if you would like to do that, email me or I'll get you the Zoom link, and it's going to be 30 minutes every day for 10 days. There's something about sitting for 10 consecutive days in meditation, and what I'm just going to walk you through just a little, like a few minutes of instruction, and help you just kind of have motivation, because other people will be sitting with you. I think right now there's 15 people signed up for my Instagram. So it just helps you kind of get you're motivated to get up and do it. Some people wanted later at night, so I think and international people wanted later at night. So after this 10 days, I might do another one at like 9 p.m. Central next. But if you want, reach out and I will give you the Zoom group link so that you can join in, and we can basically just meditate together. So it's silent meditation, but with instruction and with other human beings doing the same thing that you are and holding themselves to the same commitment you are. And it's a really beautiful, powerful practice. Because with Vipassana, I'm kind of doing it the way the retreats are. The first 4 days, they teach Anapana. Anapana is focus. So we focus on the breath, on the nose. And you do that for 4 whole days. In a Vipassana retreat, you're doing this all day. But with me, we're just going to do it for 30 minutes. And then you can continue after I sign off, you can continue on however long you have. But then after the 4th day, we'll do Vipassana, which is a body scanning. You just practice that together. And with other people holding the same commitment as you, it's so powerful. And then in the last few days, we'll do metta, which is my favorite. And it is the heart meditation. It is the loving kindness. Metta means loving kindness. And it is where you really focus on the heart. You send it to yourself. You send love to everyone. You send love to all your friends, to all your enemies, all the people in the world, the whole earth, and then the whole solar system, however far you want to go. Okay, so it's like this beautiful, this beautiful practice of loving kindness that it's really like prayer, but it's just heart energy. So rather than words, prayer is beautiful, and I love prayer, but it gets me in my head, and I prefer to send kind of like warmth and love instead, just because it kind of gets me out of my thoughts, and it kind of just creates more of a pure energy, honestly, than me thinking good thoughts for people is powerful. And I do that too, but I really like just sending like heart energy, and learning how to do that in a practice with other people is really powerful. So there is that. Let's see. I thought these devices only measure brain waves and then indicate when certain states of mind are present. So that, for example, if someone is trying to achieve a meditative state of mind, yes, these devices do measure brainwaves and indicate what those brainwaves are. And then, but neurofeedback can also send impulses that kind of retrain, like say someone comes in and they've been an alcoholic for 20 years. My neurofeedback person told me they won't have any alpha waves. Children of alcoholics have very low alpha wave, which is the wave of relaxation. Okay. Naturally, they have very low alpha. They have very low capacity for relaxing. They're like, and so what neurofeedback will do was it will kind of train the brain to allow alpha wave back in. This is why often they say, alcoholism runs in the family, because a child will come into an alcoholic and not have any way to relax. And, dad or mom's doing it, so why don't I? And so that it's part, it's just part of kind of the miasm, part of the family kind of ancestral inheritance. So that's, that's what that is. So it can be either one, right? You can do neurofeedback to just read your brain waves, which is they do at first diagnostically, but then they can kind of entrain. It's called entrainment, and to help the brain, to help kind of the nervous system relax, especially for people that are having it can help for intrusive thoughts or paranoid, really like paranoia states that would oftentimes be medicated. Neurofeedback is really good to help not have to get onto medication that really just is supposed to be a Band-Aid, that really is not supposed to be long term. It's supposed to be, like a parachute, not a solution. Whereas neurofeedback really helps boost, the brain to do what it needs to do without, all these added chemicals. Yeah. Okay. I see your two-parter. And hi, Echo 13. I love you too. And hi, Grace. I'm in California. I would love to come if you do another one at night. Okay, we'll do one at night because I also I prefer to meditate at night, honestly, but I'm gonna get up in the morning too because part of it is the commitment that I'm gonna make to myself and to a group of people and to just come together with this shared intention of meditation. I think it's a revolutionary. I think it's a revolution. If Pluto is going to be in Aquarius and the energy is going to be revolutionary, I am going to be meditating. I'm going to be leading the meditation revolution. So that's just let's see. Okay, going back to the first part of Decolores. What are some good techniques to deal with being sensitive with a Wi-Fi router in my room? I've tried, you can see my cat here is, I think at this point, he's trying to get out. We should have listened when I told him to stay out the first time. I've tried to get it moved, but I have roommates and my room is the only one it can be in. I can rarely turn it off because we all have different sleep schedules. Okay, I can definitely feel it and sometimes hear it. I've been working with my aura and using light purple energy to seal my aura while asleep. Tips. Yeah, so that's tough. That's really tough because it sounds like you can't put it on a timer to turn it off at night, right? It sounds like a timer is something that I have definitely used and I felt really good on it. You know what I do? Definitely, the light purple energy or any energy work in Reiki is beautiful. When it comes to, excuse me. Yeah, you can't turn it off at night. You can there is this fabric that you can put around it. That's like this blocking fabric. It doesn't really work. It's not really a blocker, but it can kind of like mitigate that what we want to do is we want to keep it as far away from your head while you sleep. Okay. And then if anyone else in the chat has advice for, Wi-Fi mitigation, definitely put that in the chat. What I do, I sleep with with grounding sheets and I have a wire that goes out into the ground outside. Like I threaded it through my window and it's grounded. I have it in the earth. And so there's like the wire connected to the sheets that have wire metal. And so it's a grounding, it's an earthing. They call it earthing. And so I do that. I mean, you could easily get those blankets that are like Wi-Fi blocking and sleep in those, blocking blankets. Yeah, it's really cool. I think I got earthing sheets off of Amazon and then just kind of instead of a snap, there's a snap where you can plug it into your wall, which that works too. I just wanted to try actual earthing. So I just tied a wire around it and put it into the ground. I have been sleeping amazingly. My husband actually was getting a little bit energized by it. So I think it just kind of depends on your energy and on your makeup. Just try it out and see kind of what works. Yeah, EMF router cases, that's a good one. There's lots of EMF, mitigation things you can do. I would sleep in some sort of like EMF blocking blanket or fabric. Absolutely. So, oh yeah, and definitely shungite. Okay. Yeah, so let's see. What I wanted to really, I think I got into everything I have written down here. So just let me know. You're for show. Thanks. You are welcome. Yeah. So I wanted to just kind of tell you guys a little psychic story time. I wanted to tell you guys about what I saw in the sky in Sedona. And so right now there's such a big push about UFOs and aliens, and there's so much attention on aliens and UFOs right now that I have always, I feel like, seen lights in the sky and UFOs. And ever since I was a kid, so they never really, I was always just kind of like, yeah, there it is again. So it has always been on my radar. It has just always kind of been there. But I grew up in Texas. Maybe it's like a Southwest. If you grow up in the Southwest and in the West, I think it might be a little bit more normal than here. But when we went to Sedona in in January, my husband and I were driving down, the road in between the little city. If you've ever been to Sedona, there's like little like towns and then, a road and then a town. And so we're driving through and we're kind of in a more open area. And I look up and there's this crystal clear sphere in the sky and it's shining, it's reflecting light at me. So at first it just looks like this bright light. And I'm like, okay, my first thought is it's a bright blue cloudless sky, nothing in the sky, right? There's the red rocks on either side, just blue expanse, and then this crystal clear sphere, like this crystal ball in the sky. And at first I think it's a plane, reflecting light at me. And then I realize I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, it's not a plane. It kind of comes out, the reflection, the light, the bright light goes away. And I see that it's this clear ball. And so I'm like, Suman, do you see that? Like I'm asking my husband, like, you see that, right? Because it's just kind of sitting there. It's not moving. And then suddenly it just kind of moves like really slowly and then disappears right in front of our eyes. And we're like, clear blue sky, right? Sunny, clear day. And we see this and it's like beaming at us. And there's really only like two people on this highway. And I'm looking over at the other lady like, did you just see that? I'm like, and she's, I'm just kind of driving, like not paying attention. I'm like, what was it that was so cool? So I'm tuning in and I'm like, okay, what was this? And I immediately feel amazing. Like I immediately feel like this beautiful sort of uplifted feeling. And I see almost like really like masters, like these people, they weren't aliens. They weren't like, they didn't look, they weren't even really in a UFO. It was more like a light, sort of like a light body. And they were just kind of showing, it was actually, the way they were showing themselves was two people, a man and a woman, sitting cross-legged next to each other, almost like floating in the sky, like kind of like floating in a bubble, although that's just what was kind of being beamed into my mind when I tuned into them. That's not actually, what I was seeing up there in the sky. But that's clairvoyantly what I was shown. And they're both just kind of smiling at me and just like sending this love and like life, really. Like all I can describe is vitality. And so I just felt all you really feel in Sedona is vitality. Like you're just being kind of filled up with life and this aliveness, this sense of everything is truly alive. And you see it in the rocks, you see it everywhere there, you feel it. It's just beautiful, the energy there. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm like, ooh, we just drive on and I'm just having like this sort of floaty experience. So later on that night, it's a clear night, of course, because it was so clear during the day. So we get into the hot tub. We're like, this is, hot tub night. We're going to stargaze from the hot tub because it was cold. It was January. So we're lying there looking up at the stars. And it's just glorious. If you go to Sedona, they have the dark sky thing going on there. You can see the Milky Way. amazing. I was in my backyard like this, or in my Airbnb's backyard, right? And so we were watching it, and we see a couple shooting stars go by, and then suddenly the stars really, I feel like it was really speaking to me. It was really like blinking, and I was just getting like this, oh, like what kind of star is that? I didn't have my phone. Usually I'm not an astronomer. I'm not very good at knowing my stars. And so I would have pulled out my app to see what were they wearing white robes? Yes. Yes, they were wearing white robes, Rose. Yes, they were. And so I am looking at this beautiful star that's like doing the twinkling thing, where it's all these different colors. And I don't know what constellation it was, but it was making a square. Like it was this kind of square constellation. One of the stars was. And then as I'm looking at that, I'm lying there, my husband's lying there, we're both just kind of looking up at the stars, really just meditating on the stars, essentially. And I was kind of meditating on the star that I liked, or that I felt drawn to, kind of with the feeling, of the UFO that I saw, these beings that kind of made contact. And suddenly I saw this big light. Almost, it wasn't a searchlight. It was almost like a reflection. It moved as fast as a reflection would move, but it was a big line in the sky, like a big line of light, almost like someone opened a door and it was reflecting across the whole sky, or like a pen of light. And it kind of moved like this. And I was just like over the whole sky. And I was like, Simon, what was that? Did you see that? He was like, no. I was like, you couldn't miss it. It took up the entire sky. And here I was thinking, well, maybe someone did open a door and it reflected on the sky. So my mind, like the lengths that your mind will go to, right? And then I was thinking, oh, well, maybe it was a searchlight. And it didn't look anything like a searchlight. It looked like almost like a big like laser, like just something. And so I kind of just I was really going with my mind at this point. I really just going like, what was this? What is the meaning of this? Like how? And there was power lines, and this light was behind, like way behind the lines, so I knew it wasn't coming from like anywhere in the neighborhood. So I just was like, okay, let me like stop thinking. I had to kind of pull out of my head, pull out of my thoughts, pull down and be like, where's the root of this? What is this from? And then I all I could see was the ball in the sky, and those beings. And they were just like, we just opened a door. We opened a door, and it is your job really to walk through. If you want to, like, if you want to make a connection, like a higher connection, you're here. They were kind of like, you heard our invitation and we've opened the door. They were like, you opened the door, essentially. And I was like, I didn't really get much more than that. Because at that time I was still like, what is happening? I was still kind of thinking too much. I wasn't really able to relax. I was still like, woo. But that is what I got. And so from that, they showed me another memory that I got from when we were in Hawaii when I was pregnant, and we were swimming with the wild dolphins is like all I ever want to do ever. And so of course I dragged my husband, to swim with we're snorkeling with the wild dolphins there. And so I am on top of the water with my snorkel. I'm looking down and there's all of these dolphins underneath me, and they're all just kind of sleeping, actually. They're all really slow. They're all really kind of sitting in the water, but still moving. And the light is going through the water to them. And then suddenly it almost looks like the light is coming out of the water at me. And so it's all these rays of light as if it's backwards. And so I'm just like floating. And I remember getting, this is a transmission. This is a transmission you will remember later. Or it was just the impression that you will remember later. And I just remember thinking, what's the transmission? Like I got nothing. I don't remember. But that's what they were kind of trying to show me. They were like, these transmissions, these things that, people channel, or that they say, or these connections that we make to our healing, to our spirit, to our purpose, really to our higher self, is we always have these higher beings with us, helping us, almost like giving us a package. Maybe we don't remember it. Maybe we're not able to know with our thinking mind right then what it is. But years later, something will come out of us in a healing way, or we'll say the right thing and we'll remember. And that is kind of what they showed. They kind of showed that these are almost like packages of information that come out in divine timing. And it comes out based on my ability of coherence. And to be honest, my ability of coherence was not that great. I was overthinking it big time. And I was basically like T-boning my ability to receive these beautiful messages from these beings that were making physical contact, essentially. And I was still not able to be present for it because I was overthinking. And of course, rather than going down, into shame, which I did, as overthinkers do, right? Rather than allowing it to be a shame spiral, I was able to be like, okay, we are going to work on the thoughts. We are going to start at the basics again. I'm going to start at the beginning. I'm going to allow myself to kind of set my ego aside and become a beginner again, and really just be like, because healing is a cycle. And I think that if I think I'm healed, if I think I'm done, if I think I'm a guru or a teacher, then it's time to start again. It's time for me to start at the beginning, because it's like back to the basics for me. So it was like back to meditation, square one kind of feeling for me, because I had to kind of pull down whatever traumas was kind of keeping me stuck in my overthinking, in my thoughts, because I needed to get back into my body. Like, I needed to continue the work, and it is continuous for me. So that is what I have been doing. And this is why I'm so kind of motivated about meditating and about Vipassana, because all these experiences have started kind of being pieced together, and they're making sense as I meditate. So the more I meditate, the more I sit with my inner child, address my anger, sit in my feelings, the more I'm remembering these packages of information that were given to me years ago, that I knew I had all these missing time. I have all these strange, stories and phenomena, but was not able to hold the energy for. I was not able to hold the coherence for. And that is what meditation gives me. It allows me to stay, it allows me to hold coherence and hold the energy that otherwise would otherwise it would pull up my stuff. Like these beings also know that, like, here, I'm going to hand you this gift, but we open gifts when we're ready. We do things when we are ready, right? And we heal when we're ready. We don't remember things for a reason, because we're being protected until we're ready, until we've built up this level of strength. And for me, that means kind of starting back at the basics again. Just getting really still, really simple, just kind of getting back to a commitment of starting back and just doing it every day. And what it's turned out, that it doesn't really matter how long I do it, it's the commitment. It's doing it every day, rather than doing it for like 5 hours one day. It's really just doing it like 30 minutes every day has been more helpful. And so that is that story. When children give that honk honk gesture to truckers, what's the equivalent for ETs? I like that. I don't know. I do not know. If anyone knows, let me know. That's really funny. I would love that. Sam 3, I've had that feeling from a UFO too. So beautiful. Wonderful. It is. It really is. It's hard to describe. Yeah. Great White Brotherhood. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And Echo 13 plants, sacred geometry, crystals, making lists, and a tiny blue light under the bed. I was about 8. Yeah. And Grace, I've been seeing so many more lately, but I had a crazy experience in a hot tub last week with UFOs. Really interesting. I wonder what that is. It's kind of like maybe it's easier in the winter to be in a hot tub outside at night, but also you're more relaxed in a hot tub. Very true, Alex. If you think you know it all, you stop learning. Likewise, if you think you are healed, you stop healing. They're maybe the same thing now that I say it. That's a beautiful way of putting it. I agree. That has been my personal experience, and I don't know what I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly what grandiosity means in, because I know there's a concept with it in spirituality, but for me and my personal, like my family miasm and kind of just the ancestral healing that I've done, what I have noticed is that grandiosity is something that is an initiation. We can't really go into, I would just notice, like, as soon as I was like, I've got this is happening to me. That's when I was like, okay, I need to take a step back. Like, that was a really cool experience, but you can't go to the level of grandiosity with it. And I mean, I would have to tell myself this and kind of like remind myself, like, okay, we have to make sure that I am keeping basically being able to hold this energy and not fall for the trap of grandiosity, because that is something that is an initiation. I think it's part of this path, and falling for, the urge to, whatever, feel really, big or special is it was a trap for me personally. I'm not saying that we aren't special. I'm not saying that feeling special is bad, because it can be really beautiful, especially if you struggle with confidence, which I certainly have. But I feel like what I'm trying to say is that grandiosity and feeling like I want to show off. It has always been something that the work that I've been drawn to, like intuition, it goes directly against intuition. Grandiosity will, I think, block and cut people down with their intuition quicker than anything. And so that is, yeah, it's like if the moon was bigger than the earth, right? It kind of just we don't want to overshadow. We have to be able to kind of hold our space in the midst of something kind of crazy happening or really cool. I have to just keep it grounded. Grandiosity is something that really entities even will use to kind of pull someone out of their body and just kind of get bigger than life. It's a tactic to try to bait people into spiritually bypassing. And so it's usually very tempting, right? And I really feel like it's part of this conversation. It's part of this process, and it's part of intuition development, is understanding when, grandiosity and feeling like these things are happening to me and only me because I'm special. Like, that is not the case. It's really, these things are for everyone. And it's really about where our interests and intentions are going. And so I share this story to just kind of show you how, like, simple and subtle, but yet really extraordinary at the same time, these things are happening. And how I really, honestly, the more that I notice them, the more that extraordinary things are happening all the time. But then it's about me being able to not overthink it and be able to sort of hold a grounded coherence with it. So there's that. And wonderful, Grace, synchronistic for you to hear. Awesome. Beautiful. I love that. So thank you all for being here today. Please let me know in the chat if there's any other questions that you guys have before, because I think that is really all I had written down for us today that I wanted to share with you. So I'm so glad that you all came out. Thank you so much for doing this. I love chatting with you and just sharing this energy and the shared intention of spiritual growth and developing the intuition and developing this ability to connect to spirit. So thank you all. And I hope you have a beautiful night. And let me know, if you are interested in doing the 10-day meditation group. Either email me or put it in the comments. And thank you again so much. Bye. Bye, Moon Queen. Bye, Tamara. Bye, Alex. Bye, Mimi. Thank you, guys. Bye, Blue Alchemist. Bye, Rose. Yes, I love that, Grace. Bye, Grace. Bye, Elfern. Bye, Tamara. Bye, Sam. Have a beautiful night, everyone.